Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. We are crafting for Christmas on a budget as usual. Let's get started. This DIY is going to be super quick, but I did want to include it, and I'm just taking a gold charger. I'm going to start off by using some rubbing alcohol and wiping that down. This has been sitting out for a while and I just wanted to make sure there was no dust or anything. And then I'm going to take a chippy brush and some white paint. I am using Snow White or White by Waverly and a chippy brush from the Dollar Tree, and we're going to give this a little bit of a texture, I guess, added to our plate. We're going to highlight the little beads around the edge and just go across the whole thing. I am going to just keep this, see here I wasn't sure, I wasn't actually doing anything. I was like, no, don't go around it, go across, because I wanted everything going in the same direction. So that's all we're doing here, and I just wanted to include this really quick, but you can get chargers at the Dollar Tree. That's where this one is from, but you can also get them at craft stores on clearance. You can, I think, get them at Dollar General, but we are going to just use this piece as a base for the things that I'm creating today, and very simple to give it a little bit of a makeover. Love how this one came out. Let me know what you guys think down below. This piece, I believe, is from the Dollar Tree. I've had a couple of them over the years, and I'm going to start by just pulling off the twine, and we're going to work on removing the paper. I see these types of signs in different patterns and shapes from Dollar General as well as Hobby Lobby, and I'm telling you right now, especially after season, clearance is a great time to pick things up if you enjoy making stuff over. Also, thrift stores and rummage sales, of course, as well. So to take off the paper, I'm just spritzing it with some water, letting a paper towel sit down on it, and then we're going to begin scraping it. And then you do often have to repeat that process depending on what is on the top, what kind of paper, depends on kind of how many times you have to repeat it. I think it only took twice for me. And I've shown you this before, and sometimes I don't. I just paint over something or I just cover it with paper. It really just kind of depends on what you're going to be doing with the project. But this time I was just going to work best if I completely cleaned it off. Once it's done and dry, you can use sandpaper to get off any remaining bits. And then I am going to tape off the bottom part of our snow globe and give that a couple coats of Waverly chalk paint in white. These little pressed board, particle board, MDF signs, usually if I get any paint over the edge, I can go over it with some sandpaper and just clean it up. But I was trying to prevent getting paint on the side. Once I had the bottom part dry, I moved my painter's tape, and we're going to paint the top of our snow globe in this metallic gold paint. I believe this is a folk art paint, and we're going to use that a couple times in today's video. You of course do any colors that you want. I like to just kind of, sometimes I like to keep the same projects in a video in a theme, but it doesn't really matter. And so I gave that a few coats of gold paint until it looked the way I wanted it to. Now I'm going to be taking a stamp. I don't know where this tree stamp came from. I think a friend might have given it to me because I didn't recognize the packaging. I wanted to try it out on a piece of paper, and I was like, okay, I guess this is okay. My stamping block is not quite big enough for it, so I'm going to try using two. Really not relevant to this project. Now I have had stamps, great stamps from the Dollar Tree. This ink here that I'm using is from Hobby Lobby. It's $1.99. And I think it is well worth it. I'm going to go back and get some more colors because I feel like the Dollar Tree ink is not as good. Now, I had a little bit of struggle with this because, one, if you don't use the block, the stamp will wiggle around a little bit. I dropped it and I could easily wipe the ink off, and I was like, well, I'm going to just wipe this whole tree off if it'll come off because it was a little bit smudged. So I did that, and now we're going to do it again. And up at the top here, I didn't use a block, and so it smudged a little bit. I think my main problem here was that the metallic paint was a little bit more slippery. So my stamping didn't come out perfect. I was kind of comparing the two and I was like, I don't know. But for what I want to do, I'm leaving it. I let this dry. I didn't just use my heat gun. I walked away for hours, and when I came up, it was still wet. I'm like, this is not going to dry on this paint. So I did not have a spray sealer, so I used some hairspray. And at first I was worried that it was going to run, like cause the ink to run. But it didn't. I can't say that I recommend what I did, but I am showing you that I did it and it worked. If you like the results, then it worked. So I wanted a little bit of like black twine and I didn't have any. So I'm pulling threads out of this burlap ribbon and I'm just going to pull out a couple of them and I'm going to use that to just kind of make that definitive line between the globe and the base. It'll also kind of cover up any minor imperfections from the paint, but I didn't want anything that was super thick here. So I just took 2 strands and we are gluing that on one side. Trying to be very careful using a minimal hot glue because again, this is not a wide piece. I wrapped it around twice and then hot glued it to finish it off. And then I did want to add in a pop of red. I've shown you these before for $2.99 in the Hobby Lobby My Little Christmas. So it's like the mini Christmas tree section. I love finding things for my crafts there. Everything is at least 50% off from Hobby Lobby. So for $1.50, you get a bunch of these little bows. They're on little twist ties, so I cut off the back of the twist tie and applied a little bit of hot glue to the side here. And even though my Christmas tree did not come out perfect, I really do like how this one came out. Let me know what you guys think. Would you have redone the tree again? I don't know. When it's all said and done and everything's seen together, I feel like you don't really notice it. But, you know, if you're just making it for your home, maybe you won't care about minor imperfections. Overall, I think this is a really, really cute piece. I have a little scrap piece of wood here and it's been painted and who knows what's been done with it in the past, but I'm just going to give it a coat of white paint. I'm using my chippy brush just because I already had white paint on it. So I did a couple of coats because I needed a good base. I didn't want any of that brown showing through, but we're just going to coat this on all sides and let that dry fully before going in with some of that gold metallic paint, which is what I really wanted for this piece. And, but you know, I always say this, do what you want, do what makes sense to you, what looks good to you. I'm using what I have on hand. I'm buying very, very little, although I will be buying stuff when, you know, Christmas stuff goes on clearance because I'll be buying it for the next year. It's my favorite time to shop. But for this year's crafts, I'm buying very little. So I'm using paint that I have on hand, materials that I have on hand, and if you have any type of craft stash, you can too. Once our gold paint is fully dried, I'm pulling out these letter stamps. These are from Dollar Tree. I got them for $1.25, and I'm going to tell you what I like and don't like about them. Overall, I think they're good stamps. They do come all together attached, and so when you're pulling them off each strip, you have to like cut them apart, and because of that, they're not always perfect, and so I feel like the spacing on the letters isn't always as good or as perfect as I would like. This one came out pretty good. This little stamping block also came from the Dollar Tree, and I think overall it was fine. That's what I'm going to say. This is the ink I was talking about earlier from Hobby Lobby, and I'm just dabbing that on top of my stamp. I do use a baby wipe, or you could use a wet paper towel or something around the edges to just clean up any extra ink so that we don't accidentally transfer that onto our piece. Now I am writing out or stamping out peace. And a word that is, I like the word in general, but it's also a nice one for Christmas. I don't know why my E didn't do well, so I just added that back on. Then, of course, I had to do it again for the end of the word. This ink on this paint also was a struggle, as I mentioned in the previous DIY. I accidentally touched it and it wasn't dry, even though it was like a long time later. And so it smudged a little bit, and I was like, do I do it all over again? And I was like, I really don't mind. So once again, I used the hairspray. Probably not the best thing to do, but it worked. Is this block lettering perfect? No. Up close, especially, you can tell it's not. So this is not perfect DIYs. These are DIYs. Redo it. Do something different if you like. But when it's all together, I still liked how it looked. It didn't bother me. That's just me. I have this little glass jar. I don't remember what food item came in it, but I do save jars that I think are pretty and are fun to craft with. Now this one has a little bit of a unique shape, so as I'm trying to tape it off with my painter's tape, I struggled a little bit, but I'm going to show you I made it work. That's my theme. At first I wanted to paint a stripe in the middle of the jar, and then I just realized I was going to have a hard time making that even all the way around, so I decided to tape it off so that we could just paint the top half of the jar. You're going to do this to your preference, and a jar that doesn't angle in so much would be a lot easier probably to tape off evenly. The goal on my channel is to share with you easy and simple things that anyone can do. You don't have to do it perfect. This is for your home or maybe as gifts, just, not trying to complicate things. So you can fine tune these projects as much or as little as you would like. I'm going to paint the top of this jar with that gold paint. Now this did take several coats because it's a different type of paint, but I did get really good coverage in the end. I did make sure to dry thoroughly in between coats, otherwise you will just keep pulling the paint back off. If you like simple, easy to do DIYs, then please subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss out on my future videos. I do try to post weekly. You never know, it could happen more than that every once in a while, but typically on Tuesdays is when I post, at least at this point in time, and I'd love for you to subscribe to my channel. So once I had all of my coats, you can see I had great coverage, and that was fully dry. My edge here was not good. Because it was slightly curved where that painter's tape was, the tape kept coming up. I think I needed some new tape. I'm at the end of the roll and I think I've just had it a while. It just wasn't a good line. So we're going to use this red ribbon from Dollar Tree. This isn't even a Christmas ribbon. And I'm putting a little bit of glue every once in a while to hold this on. I am putting the glue on the ribbon because hot glue will cool quickly on contact with the glass, and that can make it hard to help something stick. So by placing the glue on the ribbon and then setting the ribbon down, just gave me a little bit more time. I accidentally had a little bit of glue leaking out here at the end, but I'm picking off what I can and we're covering it up anyway. This is what I really wanted to use, was this music note ribbon I shared with you previously in some recent DIYs, but it wasn't going to stand out the same or cover up the paint line because there's so many cutouts on it. So that's why I layered it on top of the red ribbon. It is a little bit hard to glue with hot glue because there's not a lot of surface. So every once in a while on one of the music notes, I put a little dab of hot glue, and we're going to wrap that around the entirety of the jar. And that will be our little embellishment. Well, no, I think I do something else. Do I? Yes, I do. I add a bow. If you're enjoying this video, please give it a thumbs up. And also, if you would leave me an emoji down below or a comment, I'm asking for a comment. If you don't know what to say and you just want to leave me an emoji, leave me a red heart down in the comments. Let me know you're here. I would appreciate it so much. So to finish this off and to cover up, the start and stop of the ribbons, we're going in with one of these red bows from Hobby Lobby. I've shared these with you guys a bunch of times, but I really love them. When you go to craft stores, look at different aisles. Don't just look in the crafting area. Look in all sorts of aisles. I find things that I like to use for my crafts. So that's my little tip for you there. We've got our jar embellished. We are going to now fill it. And I'm going to start by filling it with some of that faux snow mixed with Epsom salt. You could use one or the other or a combination, but I had some in a baggie left over from a project, I guess, last year. So I just used the combo. And then I'm going to take various scraps of picks to fill this jar up. This is a little jar. I can't have big, huge stems that are overpowering. It would just look weird. So I'm just picking pieces of the garland ties and a couple random things from other picks to make a small little floral arrangement inside this jar. And I think it's so sweet. Let me know what you guys think of this one. I was pleased with how this one came out. Here's an idea for displaying some of those smaller jars or vases. By putting them on a candlestick, you'll get some extra height, and I think it's a cute addition. This little house, I believe originally was from Dollar General, but I could be wrong, and I've got many houses from Dollar General, Hobby Lobby, Dollar Tree, all sorts of places. So this one is all cleaned up. There's nothing on it, obviously, as you can see, and I'm going to apply a good coat of Mod Podge, being careful to make sure I go all the way to the edge without it like being gloppy and dripping down, but wanting to make sure we have full contact to the edge of this piece because we are going to do the iron-on method, of which I've shared with you before. Once that Mod Podge is dry, we're going to take this paper. This is from Hobby Lobby, and it's just a little portion that I have left, and it is some music paper. You can't see the words. It doesn't, like it's designed, I think, for you to not be able to see it. I am just kind of creasing along the bottom to make sure this is straight, because with the lines for the music notes, you would be able to tell if it was crooked. Get that in place, put down some parchment paper and an iron, I am using my mini heat press from HTV Ront. If you have one from Cricut or something, that would work great. But you can also use a household iron. Just make sure that you don't use any steam. And I picked it up by the paper just to show you that it is fully adhered. I wouldn't recommend doing that, but I was trying to just prove it to you. And then I'm going to just take my little finger sander, and I am sanding down away from the item instead of up so that we're not pulling up on the paper. But this is a great way to get a crisp, clean edge around your piece. I do like to go back in and iron it one more time when I'm done with that. I don't know that it's necessary. It wasn't coming up at all, but I just feel better doing this, so I do. Now for a little embellishment, I have part of a garland tie, and I was like, okay, this is the right size for a wreath, but it's too furry. I know it's not fur, it's too hairy. It's too, I don't know. The pieces are so long that you kind of lose the shape of the wreath. So I'm trimming it down. This is a little messy, but it's easy and it works great. And so we're going to just trim this down so that we can make ourselves a little wreath for this house. Sometimes when I do this, I'll just twist it on itself because it is wired to make our wreath, but it was a little too bulky because this was a smaller wreath. So I am just using some hot glue, pressing it together. Once it's cooled down, I'm gonna just squeeze it with my fingers and mash that together. And then we're gonna add more glue, attaching this to the house, and that will kind of solidify that it's adhered together to make our wreath. And then I tried bending the wreath because it was wanting to like pop up at the bottom. And so I was trying to kind of like mess with it to help it stay. But I ended up putting a little bit of glue at the bottom of the wreath just to help it lay flat. I am not decorating for Christmas yet, but I will admit that I do decorate earlier than many people, and I am very, very much looking forward to decorating this year. Right now, we're just doing our crafts. I was going to go around with some antique wax around the edge. When you do the sanding technique on the paper, you will have a little bit of a white edge from the paper. Plus, sometimes you might sand off any paint on the piece. Depending on the look you're going for, that may or may not be a problem. I was going to go around the edges with some antique wax, but instead I decided to use my ink pad. Now I'm using my ink pad from the Dollar Tree because it's not as intense of an ink, and so I thought it was perfect for this. I know people use like the little daubers and all of those things. There's stuff, I can't remember what it's called, that I see people use on the edges all the time that I may get at some point. But right now I'm using what I have, and this ink pad worked great. I went up on the corners of the paper. I'll show you in the end as well to kind of help you see what I was doing. But this disguised all of the edges where we trimmed off the paper and just gave it a little bit more of a distressed look. I thought about using one of those little red bows that I've been using from Hobby Lobby, but it was a little too big for this, and I also didn't want to have more of them in like the same vignette. So I'm just taking some red ribbon from Dollar Tree and I'm cutting it in half because I wanted a thinner ribbon. Now, sometimes this works and sometimes it doesn't. Depending on the ribbon, it will fray a lot. And this one did fray, but once I was done messing with it, I didn't think the fraying would continue much. So I'm just making a simple little bow and tightening it and shortening it. I didn't want it too big. And then once I was done messing with it, I trimmed off all of the little frayed pieces that kind of at that point were just little fuzz balls. Once it was all set, I'm going to add a little dab of hot glue on the top of our wreath. I did trim down the tails a little bit more just because I wanted them a little shorter. Then I made that one too short, so I had to go back and make the other one a little shorter. Anyways, very simple wreath and with a red bow on our little house. I love how this one came out. I love this music paper from Hobby Lobby. I think I'm going to be getting more of it. You can see here how I distress all of the corners and the ink just kind of gently came around the edge of the little house. I thought it worked out really well. This is how they all look together, displayed together. I did add in a bottle brush tree and add the little glass vase on top of the candle pedestal to give it a little bit more height. But I just wanted to give you some ideas and little inspiration here. But I had so much fun with this one. Thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it so much. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and leave me a comment down below to let me know you're here. I just really appreciate the support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye guys.